Continuing on page 209, an objection has been raised to item 4-5.04, number 3H.
The gentlewoman from Richmond City, Ms. McClellan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Speaking against the amendment.
The gentlewoman has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment would prohibit Medicaid funding for abortions that are performed in the case of a incapacitating gross fetal abnormality. We're talking about 14 abortions that were conducted last year, all which had to be approved by the health commissioner. As the amendment states, this is to conform Virginia's Medicaid program to the federal HIDE policy. But let me tell you what this really does. You've heard me in the past tell stories of some of the women that have had to have these abortions to terminate pregnancies that in many cases were desperately wanted. I'm going to tell you one from someone who had the federal health care policy and because of the HIDE amendment could not have that policy cover her abortion. It's a woman named Tracy who had already lost 2 children, 2 pregnancies. During her third, at 9.5 weeks pregnant, and these are her words, at 9.5 weeks pregnant, the ultrasound tech told us something was wrong with our third baby. The baby had an enlarged nuchal translucency, and her heart and intestines appeared to be outside of her chest and stomach. We met with the doctor who recommended we go to a specialist for a CVS test. We went the next week, and the specialist confirmed the previous diagnosis and told us he believed our baby had a condition called pentalogy of Cantrell, a midline defect resulting in an ectopic and deformed heart, omphacellus, herniated diaphragm, and a cleft in the chest. The doctor told us babies with pentalogy of the Cantrell often have normal chromosomes, but due to the physical deformities, this was a very grave diagnosis. But he couldn't see the full extent of the baby's situation until she got bigger. As expected, the CVS came back normal, and we found out the baby was a girl. We had another ultrasound at 12 weeks, and the doctor said our baby's spine appeared potentially deformed as well. But he still couldn't tell the full extent of her condition. We scheduled another ultrasound 2 weeks later. And at 14.5 weeks, it was clear the baby's spine was deformed and was pulling down the back of her brain, causing hydrocephalitis and brain damage. The doctor did not think she was capable of moving her legs down. They were stuck in an upright position. The doctor told us her lung tissue was deformed, and he did not think her lungs could function. We discussed our options in terminating the pregnancy, continuing the pregnancy until they diagnosed fetal demise later in the pregnancy, or if she survived to full term, we would schedule a C-section to deliver her. And the doctor said if our baby survived the pregnancy, she would die shortly after her umbilical cord was cut due to lack of oxygen. My husband and I realized we would probably end the pregnancy, but we decided to meet another doctor and get a second opinion. That doctor confirmed our baby's deformities were too severe and she would not survive. He said, since my husband and I are both federal government employees, our health insurance would not cover an abortion in this case. At first, this seemed like a minor detail because we were financially able to pay cash. The doctor told us to go home and a genetic counselor would make some phone calls and let us know our options. The doctor's office appealed to our insurance, but they refused to provide coverage for the abortion. Due to this, the hospital would not admit me because I technically didn't have insurance. Our options were to go to an abortion clinic and have an abortion with general anesthesia or private practice that had abortion without general anesthesia. It is hard to describe our emotional state. Just 6 months earlier, we had lost our second child due to a stillbirth. We had just spent the last 5 weeks in a constant state of worry over our sick baby. Now we were faced with ending the pregnancy. We were afraid to go to a clinic because we were not sure of how we would be treated. We did not think we could deal very well with the protesters there at the clinic. The federal government health insurance policy failed us and increased our suffering by making an awful situation even worse. have a similar story I will not read, but another woman who faced another terrible decision and made the decision that she and her husband felt were best for her and her child. And she ended her words by saying, "If I had been forced to carry Sarah to term, knowing that she was in pain, that she was going to die, I would have gone crazy. I mean, certifiable, send me to the hospital crazy. Did I struggle with my choice? Yes. But ultimately, I know it was the right one for her and for our family." Ladies and gentlemen of the House, what this amendment does is say if you are in this tragic situation, you have private health insurance, or you have money, you can do what needs to be done. If you are poor, you're on your own. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the cruelest budget amendments I have ever seen. We had a bill on this a few years ago that did not prevail because a budget amendment was added to put any babies born who did survive at the top of the Medicaid waiver list. We didn't want to pay for that, so that didn't happen. And yet, we're going to do it again. I urge you, on behalf of the women who cannot stand here today to tell you their story, to vote against this amendment. Thank you.